The silence was not rejection, beloved. There were moments you prayed and heard nothing. You cried and felt unanswered. You waited and saw no movement. And the enemy whispered, "God has ignored you." But heaven says, the silence was not rejection. It was preparation. When God is silent, He is not absent. He is working in places you cannot see. Seeds grow in silence. Roots form underground. Strength is built before visibility. God says, "If I answered you too early, you would not survive what I am about to release." The delay was mercy. The waiting was protection. The quiet season was strategy. You were being trained to stand where you are going. You were being healed from wounds you didn't know you carried. You were being refined so that success would not destroy you. Heaven was not slow. Heaven was precise. And now the silence is breaking. Jesus stepped into your battle. You were never fighting alone. When you were too tired to pray, Jesus prayed for you. When you were too weak to stand, Jesus stood in the gap. When the burden became too heavy, He carried what you could not. The cross was not just about salvation, it was about advocacy. Jesus did not only die for your sins, He rose to defend your future. Every tear you cried, He saw. Every rejection you endured, He felt. Every moment you thought you would break, He held you together. God says, "I watched how they treated you. I saw the injustice. I counted every wound. And because Jesus stands with you, your battle became heaven's responsibility. No weapon formed against you went unnoticed. No attack escaped divine attention. And now Jesus says, 'It is finished.' The fight is no longer yours. The outcome is already decided. What comes after heaven rules? After heaven rules, earth must respond. Things will not change overnight, but they will change permanently. You may not see it yet, but the atmosphere around you is shifting. God is rearranging people, removing disguises, breaking unhealthy attachments, and restoring what was stolen. You are stepping into clarity, into peace that doesn't make sense, into strength you didn't know you had. God says, you will not recognize yourself after this season. The pain will no longer define you. The past will no longer control you. The fear will no longer lead you. What once hurt you will now serve you. What once delayed you will now accelerate you. What once crushed you will now crown you. Because heaven ruled in your favor, and nothing can overturn God's decision. What was meant to break you failed. Hear this truth slowly. If the enemy could have destroyed you, you would not be here listening to this message. The pressure was intense. The attacks were calculated. The nights were heavy. But you are still standing. God says, what came against you was permitted, but it was never authorized to finish you. You were bent, but not broken. Pressed, but not crushed. Wounded, but not defeated. Every plan designed to end you only revealed the power keeping you alive. You didn't survive because you were strong. You survived because God refused to let go. And now heaven declares, the trial has expired. The attack has reached its limit. What was meant to break you has failed completely. God removes the masks. There is a shift happening in your discernment. God is pulling back curtains, exposing intentions, revealing hearts. People you trusted will show you who they really are, and God will give you peace instead of confusion. This is not loss. This is protection. God says, I am removing access to you. Not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life. Not everyone can go where God is taking you. You will stop explaining yourself. Stop defending your calling. Stop chasing validation. Because clarity is replacing chaos. What once drained you will no longer have permission to stay. God is separating you from what was silently harming you. You are stepping into divine rest. Now comes the part you prayed for, but didn't know how to ask. Rest, not the absence of responsibility, but the presence of peace. God says, you don't have to fight like you used to. The anxiety is loosening its grip. The heaviness is lifting. The constant fear of loss is fading. You are learning to trust again, to breathe again, to believe again. This rest is not laziness. It is confidence. Confidence that God has already gone ahead of you. Confidence that the verdict cannot be reversed. Confidence that heaven is still ruling in your favor. And from this place of rest, your greatest season will begin. God is restoring what you lost. Child of God, nothing you lost was overlooked. Not the time, not the opportunities, not the relationships, not the pieces of yourself you had to give just to survive. God says, I am not only healing you, I am restoring you. Restoration is not replacement. It is return with increase. What was taken from you unjustly will come back with purpose attached. The years that felt wasted will produce wisdom. The tears that felt endless will birth testimony. You will look back and realize God was not late. He was preparing a greater return. You are being positioned, not punished. There were moments you questioned yourself. Moments you wondered if the pain was your fault. But hear this clearly. You were not being punished. You were being positioned. God moves his chosen quietly. Out of noise. Out of danger. Out of visibility. Before elevation. He removed you from places that could not sustain your calling. What felt like isolation was alignment. What felt like loss was protection. And now God says, I am bringing you back, but this time with authority. You will no longer beg for space. You will walk in knowing who you are. This is your confirmation. If you have been asking God for a sign, this is it. If you have been waiting for reassurance, this is your answer. God says, you are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are not disqualified. Heaven has already spoken your name. Angels have already been dispatched. Doors are already unlocking. Even now, things are shifting in ways you cannot see. Hold on just a little longer. Stay faithful just a little deeper. Trust me just a little more. Because what is coming will make sense of everything you survived. The final declaration from heaven. Listen. This is the closing of the case. The judge has spoken. The evidence has been weighed. The enemy has nothing left to say. God says, my decision concerning you is final. No delay can cancel it. No person can block it. No mistake can undo it. What I have spoken over your life will stand, even if everything around you shakes. You are not standing on chance. You are standing on covenant. God says, I chose you before the pain. I marked you before the battle. I approved you before the attack. You were never fighting for victory. You were fighting from victory. Even when you didn't feel strong, you were covered. Even when you felt alone, you were surrounded. Even when you doubted yourself, heaven never doubted you. This season ends with you standing, not broken, not ashamed, not defeated, but healed, restored, strengthened. Rest in the verdict. Now breathe. Let go of the questions. Release the fear. Lay down the burden. You don't have to replay the past anymore. You don't have to prove yourself anymore. You don't have to fight the same battles anymore. God says, rest. I have already handled it. From this moment forward, walk with confidence. When doubt rises, remember the verdict. When fear speaks, remember heaven ruled. When the past tries to return, remember it was dismissed. Your story is not ending in pain. It is ending in purpose. Your tears were not wasted. Your waiting was not empty. Your suffering was not in vain. Heaven ruled in your favor. Jesus stands with you. And what comes next will be greater than what you lost. Be still now and let God finish what He started.